So there has been a folder sitting on my desktop for 2 years now. The title of it is Building a Better Earthrise. After that shockingly positive response to the original Fixing Siege video, so long ago now, I set about making a sequel when I got the first opportunity. The show came out, I did my reaction series to it, then I did the rewriting the dialogue video, and immediately after that, I had planned to make this video pretty much. But I kind of didn't because I ran into a bit of a conundrum. The Kingdom show wasn't out yet, and Earthrise was such an unfucking believable mess that I had no idea what elements were supposed to be important. I didn't have the remotest clue what was going to get carried from one season to the next, and I didn't want to come up with my personal fantasy show pitch. I wanted to fix the show we got, change everything so the elements lined up properly into a cohesive narrative that resembled the clear instructions and limitations Hasbro gave to the creative team for the series. I couldn't do that without seeing how Kingdom played out, so I would know what was important and what needed to carry over from each season to the next. Ironically, it turned out that I was not the only one, as the mindless monkeys Hasbro set about crafting this fine turd of a series had no idea themselves. I have to say that I do at least have some sympathy for them. They made Earthrise with the understanding that the final season was going to be the 86 movie characters season. However, the toy designers finally managed to scream into the executives' ears loud enough that they realized they needed to do something for the Beast Wars 25th anniversary. And so at the last minute, Hasbro told them to scrap their plans for the third season and start over with a new Beast Wars themed entry. So sympathies. But it wouldn't have fucking helped because this team was the biggest bunch of incompetent losers who never should have gotten their positions that I've ever seen. They were such morons, I'm half convinced that after the show tanked, they got promoted to the CEOs of Wizards of the Coast right now. Earthrise didn't matter. You could literally cut out that season altogether, say the Ark crashed on Earth immediately after going through the space bridge, and Kingdom would make exactly as much sense if you just started the season with the Decepticons showing up on the Nemesis and crashing themselves because they ran out of Energon on the trip. There is nothing, not 1 second of value to be found in Earthrise. And these 2 years of thinking about making this video has given me about a dozen different ideas on how to make this show. So maybe in another 2 years, I'll make an alternate reality version of this video. But for now, let's lay out the ground rules. I'm counting this as my 11,000 subscriber special, by the way. A weird one to resurrect this video on, but man, did I miss this. Also, fun fact, I started reworking the old script on January 25th, 2023. That night, after the day had rolled over, at about 1 a.m., I finally thought to look for fun to see when I originally wrote it. It was January 25th, 2021. 2 years to the day. What are the odds? Okay, ground rules. Number 1, the show is 6 episodes long. They got 6, I get 6. I have to work within the constraints they had as best as possible. Number 2, the point of this season is to sell people the Earthrise toy line. So I am going to try to endear you to the characters and include as many of the Earthrise toys in the story as possible, even though that's unreasonable. CGI is the cheapest form of animation, but it's basically as expensive to make a single new character model as it is to animate a whole episode with the character models you already have. There is a reason why the actual Earthrise show had almost no new character models, and Beast Wars and Prime only ever featured a fraction of the characters that were in the toy lines. Number 3, the season has to end with the characters being capable of meeting the Beast Wars cast, whether or not that means going back in time or bringing them to the present. Number 4, Earth has to rise. The name can't exist for no reason like it did in the actual show. And that's it for the rules this time. So ultimately, as it turned out in a way that I could not have possibly predicted, with the Allspark instantly being important again, the fact that in my show I left out the Allspark altogether can't stand. I have to reverse that here. My original version of events can't be canon. So the season leading in was actually about them hunting down the Allspark, throwing it through the space bridge, following it immediately after, and all passing out in the process. For some inexplicable reason. And before we start, I'd like to let out a huge thank you to my good friend and Patreon supporter Beltfed for lending his amazing voice talent to the characters of Optimus, Ironhide, and Megatron. So let him know in the comments just how much you loved his work in this video, so hopefully we can finally give him the motivation he needs to grace you all with videos of his own. Episode 1. The show will begin where the Stinger of Siege left off. The Autobots are all unconscious on the Ark as they receive a hail from some other ship. This actually awakens the Autobots now, and they respond to the hail, bringing up the craft sending the signal on the view screen. It is now an Earth space shuttle with 2 human astronauts in full EVA gear, so you don't have to try to model up some humans. And for sure, there are already some workable suits like that on file with the animators, or that you could license for like $1,000. They'd be excited to make first contact with an alien species, saying stuff like, "We knew we weren't the only ones in the universe, and welcome to the planet Earth in our year 1982. At which point lights all over the planet would go haywire, and the 2 astronauts would scream as pink coursing energy runs over their bodies like you saw with Shockwave's virus during Siege. A flash would happen and the monitors on the Ark would all go dark.
Wheeljack, get those monitors back up. I need visual on what in Primus just happened.
At which point the monitors would flicker back on their own. The American shuttle looks different now, and its transmission returns as well, but the once cheerfully lit video feed is shrouded in darkness. The shadowy figures of the 2 astronauts slowly lean into the camera and state, "Alien vessel. You are now the prisoners of the galactic empire of Earth. Surrender or be destroyed. On that final sentence, the astronaut leans in close enough that their monitor screen illuminates their face, revealing that they are now a cybernetic life form. Needless to say, the Autobots don't surrender, at which point the once primitive spacecraft starts kicking the crap out of the Ark, flying circles around it and nailing it with advanced weaponry. Eventually, they manage to blow the ship up because they did at least have an armaments number advantage, so they basically shotgun it so they can't miss. At which point, the two astronauts combine into a small version of their original shuttle and jet off back to the planet side, where scans reveal that a whole lot of similar craft are about to launch, necessitating that the Ark force a stealth landing or be obliterated. And now, all that promotional material about the Autobots sneaking around on Earth through a forest in the dark makes sense. The Autobots are significantly outnumbered and outgunned, as there is an entire planet of people who are hostile to them. After landing, Wheeljack reformats everyone into scanned local modes, as he's the closest thing to a doctor the ship has. Because Ratchet didn't get on the Ark or died or whatever. Because he never did serve a purpose in Siege and basically disappeared from existence as far as the real series was concerned after that. Now, I have two ideas on how to approach this next bit, and I know that how I'm going to do it will rub some people the wrong way. But it's funny, and it will keep the show from having to develop a whole new cast of characters. When we got a total of 18 episodes to work with for the whole series, you can't just keep piling on a new cast every season. No one gets any time to establish like that. Cut to the medical bay where Wheeljack has just finished reformatting Sideswipe.
What have you done to me?
Do you really think that you could stay hidden on an alien world with your old form? I've reformatted you to a local alt mode so you can scout the planet. Yes! I already looked exactly like that one car in the database I showed you! You know, the one I wanted? I don't know what you're talking about. Why am I yellow? Because I figured when I reformatted you, you could use an upgrade. You don't get to just change someone's color because you want to, you psycho! I don't like your tone, Sunstreaker. That's not my name. You don't get to decide my name because you changed my color. And you think me being yellow will help me stay hidden? I'm gonna stand out like a sore thumb now. Everyone hates yellow. Hey, you heard me, Bumblebee.
I don't know. I kinda like the new look. Makes me feel young and strong again.
Did you seriously invert red and yellow on everyone? I don't need to explain myself, Cliffjumper. But keep questioning me like this. See what happens. But I don't think Cliffjumper would really appreciate you giving someone else his face and name. He won't care, he's dead. Jesus, dude! I see the first thing you did with the language database I downloaded off that shuttle is look up the local swear words. That was the first thing I did too.
Cliffjumper, I'm glad to see you. I thought you bought it in Shockwave's virus attack.
I'm Bumblebee.
Who?
Goldbug.
Oh, right. New guy. Why do you look like Cliffjumper? Wheeljack, why does Goldbug look like that?
Oh, I'm messing with Sideswipe. It's going so well. Yep, that's right. No new characters, just new bodies for the characters from the previous season. It lets you continue developing the characters you've already put the work into, and doesn't require hiring new voice actors, thus saving you on cost. And Sideswipe is Sunstreaker now as a joke on how they're brothers. Now, they're the same guy. Episode 2. Episode 2 will follow the Autobots exploring Earth at night, recreating that aforementioned shot of them stealthing through the brush. Once they reach civilization, they find an undamaged 1980s contemporary city, but with no residents. Eerily quiet and desolate, their investigations of empty vehicles lining the streets and storefronts shows that yes, this planet's technology is far too primitive to have normally been a threat. As they try to figure out what happened to the world, Wheeljack starts to piece it together. I have it! You have what, Dr. Mutilator? I know where we are, Sunstreaker. That's not my name. Oh, is that right? Funny, I didn't think you cared about getting people's names correct based on just a second ago. Look here, you—
As much fun as it would be to watch you two rip each other's ridiculous ears off.
I didn't choose this.
This is a stealth mission. We need to get in, get out, without getting noticed. So, Doctor, if you would, enlighten this old war dog as to where we are and how you know it, before he teams up with Sunstreaker here to rearrange your face.
Hey! Well, back before the war started, the Cybertronian government was scouting other worlds as potential sources for Energon. All those reports were compiled into a database that I've been keeping in my back compartment just in case I ever found myself lost in a teleporter accident, of which I don't think I'd be very much at fault. So, I've been combing through it since we got here, trying to pinpoint exactly what planet we're on. And I finally figured it out. Lucky too. It was scouted just before the war started. Strange thing is, it was just a couple million years ago. Barely the blink of an optic. But every life form on the planet at the time was nothing more than an animal. Never seen evolution run so fast. What's more, those beings we ran into don't resemble any of the dominant life forms on the planet from back then. If anything was going to evolve into a spacefaring race on this world, it wasn't going to be the creatures we met a few megacycles ago.
And the significance of that being...
Something fishy was happening on this planet before the whole, I'm being restructured by powers beyond my comprehension thing. The episode would conclude with them returning to the Ark to report their findings. As they cross the defensive line, they see a massive object in the distance cleaving its way through the forest. Scorponok is searching for them. Episode 3. Episode 3 sees Double Dealer leading a militia composed of a bunch of Elecons, none of which are Cybertronians in this version of the series, but are altered humans, in trying to hunt down the alien trespassers. They've been informed by a shadowy representative of the government that they've narrowed down the possible landing zones for the alien craft, and that they are likely in its general area. As they prowl the streets, searching for the Autobots, you would learn that Double Dealer feels like there's something wrong. He has these memories that won't go away, but that he also can't quite grasp. He senses something's not right, but he can't lose focus. He is expected by the Empire to succeed. Anything less means the destruction of the whole area by the super weapon out in the forest, just to be sure the invaders didn't sneak by them. But it's like they're hunting ghosts. They keep thinking they see the invaders as they go around the unnaturally desolate city. Every time they round the corner, though, there's no one to find. Just more streets and more buildings he doesn't understand the purpose of, despite it being his home. And the episode would end with Double Dealer staring at the sky while mumbling to himself. Clouds, 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 clouds. Episode 4. This one starts out with Wheeljack solving the mystery of what happened to the Earth. Okay, so hear me out. After studying the history logs that we were able to pull off all of those primitive local computers, I think I got it figured out. Optimus, remember when you threw the Allspark through that half-broken space bridge rather than just let Megatron have it so we could rewrite all of the no Autobots left on Cybertron into Decepticons?
You didn't have to phrase it like that, but yes.
Well, if I had to make an educated guess, I'd say that its energies combined with the space bridge's energies caused a transwarp field that made the Allspark pop out at the moment the space bridge closed the last time the planet was surveyed before the war. It then crashed down in a place that the locals now call New Mexico, killing basically everything that was alive at the time.
Dear Primus, what have I done?
Oh, don't worry, it gets better. You know that pulse that turned all the people of this world into power-hungry monsters seeking galactic conquest? I'm pretty sure that was the Allspark having a spasm. Who knew that the rock that created all Cybertronian life's default setting was Megatron? Dear God, Wheeljack, read the room! Oh, great burn from Sunstreaker! After this revelation, Optimus would send more of the scouts into the city, despite the increased danger, to see if they could locate record of where the Allspark might have been kept. This is where some of the new Micromasters would come into play, as they'd be sent out with Bumblejumper to go to a thing called a library, to get the information they need, since the Micromasters are the only ones small enough to fit inside the building. There would be a tense scene where there's concern they will be caught by Slitherfang, who's patrolling the library while they search the Dewey Decimal System. But just as they're about to get caught, Slitherfang goes to investigate some explosions that can be heard in the distance, which is caused by Sunstreaker running into Bugbite, who insults him for being yellow. See, Wheeljack, I told you, everyone hates yellow! This allows the smaller robots to escape the library with the information they need, only for Bumblebee and them to be caught out in the open by Double Dealer, beginning a desperate fight and chase. Bumblebee, being no match for the much larger, much more heavily armed robot, attempts to flee, bantering and taunting him in order to draw his attention away from the Micromasters who escape alone, eventually leading Double Dealer down into an alleyway where he has nowhere else to flee. End of the line, you little cretin. Why are you doing this? We just want to help you, man! And what exactly do you plan on helping me with? We want to fix you, put you back to normal. And what does normal even mean to you? Because last I checked, I am normal. Look around you, dude! Don't you think it's weird that you built all your cities too small for anyone to live in them? No, don't you think it's a little weird that there are abandoned vehicles everywhere? Don't you think it's weird that there are pictures of creatures that look nothing like you on the walls and signs advertising products that have no use to you? You used to be someone different. Who did you used to be? Double Dealer looks at the sky. Clouder. I used to be Dylan Clouder. Allowing Bumblebee to leave, he returns to the Ark just in time for Scorponok to arrive. Episode 5 would begin with Scorponok attacking the Ark, dealing severe damage to it, as the Autobots try to take off. The intel they got from the library leads them to believe that the Allspark was found and moved at some points to a research center somewhere in a nearby place called Washington. Grappled by Scorponok's claws, the ship would be destroyed if it weren't for Double Dealer firing his giant missile into the back of Scorponok, who is injured bad enough to drop the Ark. As it blasts off, the Autobots can see Double Dealer on their view screens getting surrounded, but the ship quickly moves out of visual range before you can see what happens. Barely holding together after the beating it took, the Ark loses control, crashing into the side of Mount St. Helens, and the Autobots are forced to disembark to make it to the research center. The area now swarming with enemies hunting them down, the Autobots are forced to alternately fight and hide as they search the area for the building they're looking for, until they're cornered and forced to fight to the death. All seems lost until the Nemesis shows up and begins bombarding their position, vaporizing a lot of the nearby buildings and decimating the far more numerous target of the Earth forces. Everyone would be killed until Scorponok arrives and rips the Nemesis from the sky. The Nemesis manages to fire off a broadside into Scorponok, but Scorponok deals enough damage to it that they are both effectively destroyed. Episode 6. The final episode of the season would see the Autobots rising from the ashes of the destroyed town in the wake of the Decepticon attack, as the human forces, now led by the shadowy figure that was commanding Double Dealer, revealing themselves, and I do mean selves, plural, to be a Quintesson, regroup from the devastating blow they took. In the center of the crater that used to be one of the buildings, they find the Allspark. This is interesting. You'll never believe it.
As much as I like dramatic reveals, Wheeljack, we are in the middle of an active war zone, waiting to get annihilated. So if you could expedite the point, I'd be grateful.
The Allspark's burnt out.
Not surprising, considering what it just did the other planetary cycle. So you're right. I don't believe you. How could you tell me such falsehoods?
No, there is absolutely no residual energy coming off this thing. It's been dead. Millions of years been dead.
Okay, you're right. I don't believe you, Wheeljack. That's not possible.
No, I'm serious. I think it is.
It just altered everything on this planet.
Yes, and you also just threw it through the space bridge too.
Beg pardon?
You threw it through the space bridge. It landed in the past, and almost immediately expelled all its energy. However, because you threw it today, it altered today.
I'm sorry, Wheeljack, but in what way does that make sense?
Okay, so in order to get this, you have to understand a very scientific concept. Time is stupid. Dumb as hell. Unbearably, slaveringly stupid. Can barely figure out how doors work dumb.
Of all the crazy things you've told me, and all these hundreds of metacycles I've known you, this takes the energon cake, Wheeljack.
No, I'm serious. Time is an idiot that has no idea what it's doing. It is utterly incapable of making sense.
So what do you propose we do to unmake this mess if the Allspark's destroyed? Because the only way I can think to fix all of this is to invent a time machine in, the next 5 cycles, and go back and prevent the Allspark from ever hitting the planet.
Oh, we can't do that.
Really, Wheeljack? Well, darn. I thought my plan had some real merit. Guess we'll have to come up with some kind of crazy scheme if going back in time isn't an option.
Oh no, the time travel thing I think is definitely doable, but I don't think we want to prevent the Allspark from ever making groundfall. I mean, just at base level, that would mean that the dominant life forms of this planet would never change to the creatures that we met when we arrived, because the impact wouldn't destroy the big lizards that ruled this place before. I mean, that right there would be us unmaking a whole people, which wouldn't exactly help them not be what we accidentally turned them into. It would help them not be anything. But I also think that it was probably a lesser pulse from the Allspark that kickstarted evolution on this planet so it could get to this point. Well, the point it was at a few stellar cycles ago.
Why does this world have to be so difficult? And how exactly do you propose we go back in time?
Well, we don't have the technology to create a stable transwarp field ourselves. That research kind of fell by the wayside when the war started, and guys like Brainstorm and I needed to brainstorm how to make bigger bombs. But the space bridge may have a residual transwarp field left over from when the Allspark traveled through it, so if we can get at that, we could travel through time to when the Allspark collided with the planet, and then maybe stabilize it so it doesn't ever cause the world-ending pulse?
I hate to inform you of this, but we don't exactly have access to the transport that will get us to the space bridge anymore. But I do!
Megatron walks out of the shadows near a half-demolished building.
Thanks for telling me how to recover a precious relic of our antiquity, Doctor. I'll be sure to have your name recorded in the history texts for it, or at least the obituaries. Decepticons, attack!
The Autobots are forced to flee from the Decepticons, who eventually retreat to the remains of the Nemesis so they can launch an escape shuttle to reach the transwarp field.
Well, all is lost. It was good knowing you, Wheeljack. Well, sometimes it was good knowing you. Other times it was quite vexing. You did have a great sense of humor, though. Sunstreaker.
Well, it's a good thing that Megatron cut me off before I responded, because I have a friend that's been chilling out in the cargo section of the Ark this whole time, since he's not exactly subtle, or stealthy, or can fit most places. But if half the claims he makes about himself are true, then he could probably drag the Ark and all of us up there with it.
Who are you talking about?
Skylynx! The season ends with the Autobots riding in the Ark as Skylynx pushes it through space, just narrowly trailing the Decepticons through the transwarp field. And that's what I would do if I was making my version of Earthrise. This video kind of ended up as the Wheeljack show, but that wouldn't exactly be the content of the full real thing. It's just that he's the scientist and therefore the guy who figures out all the important science stuff this season. So his lines are the most important to get the story across in the synopsis. More of the show would be dedicated to establishing the other characters and the threat that the Earth Empire poses to the galaxy now. What none of the show would be dedicated to is the utterly superfluous characters who were left back on Cybertron and impacted nothing, and had nothing to do with the important plot or events of the series. The Nemesis doesn't need an explanation. The Decepticons just had a warship, and no reason to use it before now. The Autobots were on Cybertron. They didn't need to fly anywhere. And I'm not going to bother redeeming Megatron or making him complicated and conflicted or anything like that. The show can't be about that. It doesn't have the time. There are too many characters, too much to do, and too little time to do it. This is a season about the dangers that Earth poses and the culpability that the Cybertronians have for the situation it is in now. And it connects to Kingdom about exactly as well, and honestly, though Skylynx only has like 20 seconds of screen time in my version, I think I've wasted him less. At least he gets to do something awesome and not die. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.